How's it going, my lovely dead disciples? I am the Shattered Reaper, and today we are going to continue the life and suffering of Sir Brante. Where last we left off, we had Ace, the top of our class in the history and law department, and we actually made the top of the class, praised by our teachers and our higher ups, and of course the love of my father, something I never got in reality. Well, maybe that's not entirely true, but it's just something that I know is very fragile. And we also we did get an average grade in theology. However, this did come at the price of helping Nathan with an issue of his, as well as my friend not losing his fort because I wasn't there because I was busy studying, so that was a thing. And we did also happen to meet an Archnean noblewoman and also witness someone else's first death. Sophia, she got trampled by horses with nobles on top of them. Or, well, guardsmen. They did not care, they ran over a little girl. That was traumatizing. And the Archnean noblewoman, apparently, she remembers me as the commoner that picked up her handkerchief and had her guards beat the shit out of. So, that was interesting, and we apparently met a girl because of that. Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, we are now 12 years old in our adolescence, so let's go ahead and see what more will happen in this playthrough. What things shall we come across? What new interesting events will occur? Oh, and also we kind of know everything. We know everything about history, we know everything about law, we know everything about this world. Knowledge that the god of chaos will be able to use to his or her fulfillment and desires. Okay, you push Nathan out of the room. Oh, oops. I guess, morning comes you, and the teacher's voice singles you out. If a commoner insults a nobleman's honor, how ought he to be dealt with according to imperial law? Bring the commoner to the prefecture where the judge will sentence him to corporal punishment. Sorry. And what if a noble takes a commoner's life by negligence or whim? The noble is fined by the provincial authorities, which, by the way, completely unfair, but, I think we kind of got that since we got here in this world. So, surprising even yourself, you give the correct answers to these questions and the many more that follow. The next subject is the history of the blessed Archnean Empire. You masterfully recount the history of every province as they merge with the Empire, from Molnia to Magra, then you recite the names of every tempest who has ruled the Empire. You conquer every question the teacher asks you without confusing a single date. That's how good I am. You get the highest grade in law and history and an average grade in theology. You relay the teacher's praise to Father over dinner. He smiles pleased with you. Well done, my son. I can see how hard you have been working. Keep at it and you will be among the Empire's greatest servants. I'm proud of you. And we get affection. This feels so nice, and we did also gain nobility. We're still unprincipled, but we do have some nobility. So, let's see what happens next now. Your education continues. As you study imperial law, you come to realize that there is a certain hierarchy even within the noble estate. It seems your father's status is not quite equal to that of the more eminent human and Archnean gentry. You return home with this new information at your disposal. Father asks you about school after dinner, as he always does, to which, by the way, we did also learn that there was a difference between the Archneans and humans. Archneans apparently are the people who are not only originally of the Empire, but they were also sort of have a physical difference where they have a sort of light azure tint to their skin tone, and thus they kind of seem more elegant, regal, and more noble. And of course, all of them are nobles. Not a single one of them can be a commoner, but humans have the ability to be either noble or commoner. And what is the difference between nobles of the mantle and those of the sword, Volker? You already have an answer ready. The latter status is hereditary, meaning that it is passed down from father to son. After the Archneans, nobles of the sword are the most eminent humans in the Empire. They own land and estates, they fill offices of the highest ranks, and the names of their bloodlines are preserved within the Great Blue Book. Nobility of the sword can only be granted only by the overseer of the province or the emperor himself. And how are such eminent people addressed? With the honorific L before their last name. You respond, Sir Augustine L. Bourne, for example. Father pats you on the shoulder, clearly pleased. And what about the Archneans and their status? What have you learned about them? The Archneans stand above all human gentry. They are born to rule over humans regardless of their titles. No L is required when addressing them. They need no honorifics, for the names of their ancient dynasties are known to all. Father nods somberly. So I guess in a sense they don't have the L, it's only something that's needed for only the highest of the humans. And, although in a sense I guess it kind of makes it sound like they place themselves at the same level of the lower human nobility, but in a sense they make it more honorific by saying, we don't need an addition to our name. Our family name is already known well enough and you should respect it, so that's interesting. Yes. We can never be their equals. Do whatever an Archnean tells you and never defy them. Ever. Then what about grandfather and me? Where do we stand as nobles? That is easy. Father and grandfather are nobles of the mantle. This title cannot be inherited, but it can be earned by any commoner as a reward for great service to the Empire and the Legion, or as a civil servant. Father suddenly grows quiet and looks you in the eye intently. Yes. Someday you will earn a noble title too, son. All in due time. Sir Tiber's school teaches children of all stripes. Nobles of the mantle and low-born parents can send their sons here. And every passing day, the children of noblemen invent new ways to snub and bully the commoners. Most of the time, the bully leading them is Daedric, the son of the secretary of the Imperial Chancellery, and a self-important slob. The sons of noblemen never pick on you, however. They know that your father has been ennobled by the mantle. However, Daedric and his retinue soon choose Thomas as their favorite victim. Time and time again, you ask your friend not to pay them any mind, but again and again, Thomas grows angry and snaps at their self-satisfied mockery. It is early morning. The students are busy flocking to the classroom for the next lesson. You wave Thomas over when you see him. He waves back at you, and then a bucket full of slop splashes on him. Needless to say, it is the work of Daedric and his entourage. You hear his familiar creaky laughter. Taylor sons stink. How dare he sit next to decent folk? Thomas clenches his fist. Now, if I may, you sloppy, filthy piece of shit, that does not seem like a very noble thing of you to stoop so low as to use pranks as pitiful as that. So, perhaps maybe if you'd rather not have me tell the authorities of your rather ignoble attitude and behavior, perhaps maybe you would like to apologize. You're dead, Daedric! He throws himself at Daedric's haughty entourage like a soldier ready to wage war. He attacks them first. This is just what they expected, and they are free to retaliate. He barely makes one movement before 4 pairs of hands grab him at once. Daedric sneers and kicks your friend in the belly. Thomas gasps for air and starts coughing. You stand between them as Daedric readies another kick. The nobleman's son cocks an eyebrow. Why do you mingle with commoners? He asks. Your father is a noble of the mantle. You ought to be friends with your own kind, your equals, not the dirt beneath your feet. Behind him, 4 boys hold Thomas down as he struggles furiously. I can shake Daedric's hand. And why would I do that? The other students are watching in frozen fear. Daedric haughtily extends a hand to you. He clearly expects you to shake it, although you do. He's right, being friends with the sons of nobles can benefit your family. Admonish the nobleman's son. The children of parents who have been ennobled by the mantle still bear the commoner's lot. You sick the school authorities on Daedric and his retinue. Challenge Daedric to a fight. You challenge the nobleman's son to single combat. gonna turn him over to the teachers. Not gonna shake his hand. Why the fuck would I do that? I mean, yes, it had the benefit shown, but like, Daedric's a slob piece of shit. His family clearly is not one that I care about. You fold your arms across your chest and declare that Daedric and his followers were paid dearly for their insolence. Their parents may be nobles, but they are not nobles themselves. Here at school, we are all equals. And what you have committed was not the sign of nobility, because nobles do not stoop to such low and disgusting pranks, now, do they? Daedric's entourage is about to swarm you too, but the teacher of Imperial Law comes into the room just in time. Everybody immediately returns to their seats. Once the lesson is over, you tell the teacher how Daedric and his friends have been starting fights and picking on people. They are the children of nobles, yet not noble themselves, which means they are guilty of defying their lot and encouraging other students to do the same. The law teacher furrows his brows when he hears this. He assembles all the students and admonishes them. Any student caught in defiance of his lot will no longer be welcome at the school. The twins are always watching over us all, and the school will not suffer the presence of troublemakers who defy their will. Oh yay, more relation with Thomas. Thank you. Anything for a friend. The nobleman's sons reluctantly agree. There's no good reason to risk picking on nobles when the punishment is too high. To say Daedric is angry at you would be an understatement, but he can no longer hurt you or Thomas. The bullying stops. I am a master at what I do. Ingenuity +1. Okay, so I'm still a bit slow on ingenuity, but the time will come when I get better at this. The silver tree. Oh, there are even houses around it. Why would they allow such a thing? I have to worry. Or wonder. Your theology teacher tells you more about Anizote. It is more than just the provincial capital. It is also a sacred place, blessed by the gods. It is where the twin gods' first disciples spilled their blood, and from that blood grew the sacred silver tree. Its enormous foliage hangs over the city. You see its branches in the sky every day, but you have never approached the trunk of the tree yourself. Today, you will be taking your first trip to the silver tree. Your class is visiting a service in the great temple by the tree's very roots. Thanks to your theology teacher, you and the other students will witness the landmark of the twins' advent up close. Everybody's excited. Soon, you and the other boys enter the slums surrounding the church district of Anizote. The roots are pulsating under your feet. They spread underground all throughout the area. Pathetic, cramped hovels and filthy streets surround the trunk of the tree. They are home to paupers, day laborers, and preachers. The people of the district bow humbly to you and point you towards the temple. They seem at peace despite the abject poverty in which they live. All who live directly beneath the tree are filled with its divine grace, your teacher says. People come here to make peace with the world and their fate in it. Your class is unusually quiet. Everyone is listening to the rustling of the leaves and the underground beating of the roots. The sky above you is obscured by the tree's canopy. You find the temple of the twin gods right next to the tremendous trunk of the tree. It almost seems a part of it. There's a crowd there. Pilgrims dressed in traveling clothes, paupers and beggars, common people of the city, and the occasional well-dressed noble. There are arguments among some people who are gathered in separate small groups. Many people are wandering around, staring upward at the tree's branches. The tree impresses you with its might and the calm emanating from it. You are filled with a desire to sit down and think of the world, to learn something about yourself, to touch the silver-white bark and hearken to the whispering leaves. You are distracted enough to fall back from the rest of your classmates. You notice a small path. It should take you right next to the trunk. A tall, red-haired woman walks out of the crowd of pilgrims. She is wearing a worn white robe. She is no longer young, but her face is youthful and covered in freckles. Her hands clutch a book. You have never seen this lady pilgrim before, yet she looks at you almost as if she recognizes a lifelong friend. She beckons to you and says her name, Mathilde, a preacher from Estina. What she says next shakes you to your very core. It is commendable to see a young man so keen to learn the teachings of the twins, she says. Yet you will never follow the light of truth within the walls of the temple. Inside you will find only the lies about the lots, the erring words of Prophet Asatius sanctified by the passage of centuries. Yet anyone who sets out to read the accounts of the twins' own lives knows that they never so much as mention the lots. Oh? Do tell. The red-haired preacher's words frighten you. They clash with everything you have heard from Mother, everything you have been taught at school. The lots are a lie? You freeze in fear. Should you argue with Matilda, or ask her for more information? Or should you treat her as a madwoman and catch up with your classmates? You suddenly feel a small warm hand grasp your own. You see a girl right next to you. She is just a little bit older than you. Wearing a black dress, threadbare yet almost spotless. Her hair is covered by a handkerchief with only a single golden lock showing. Her brown eyes are burning with rage, her hand pulling you away from the red-haired woman preacher. You stare in confusion at the strange young girl, your cheeks flushed by the sudden touch. There's just a bit of color on her cheeks too, but then she starts speaking to you quickly. Don't listen to her. She's dangerous. Come to the temple with me. Only there will you see the truth. You stand there surrounded by the crowd of praying pilgrims and the sounds of shuffling feet torn between two people you have never seen before, and each of them expects you to follow her. But all the while you hear the whispering of the wind in the tree's branches. The branches reach out for you, almost as if the tree wishes to speak to you itself. Can you hear its voice? Follow the girl in the temple. What truth will you learn inside the temple? Stay with the red-haired pilgrim. What else does she have to say? Leave and then approach the tree. Give in to the epiphany. You open yourself to the tree and listen as it speaks. Oh, but I didn't have the insight, so I can't do that. The tree. It knows more than any human. The tree is beautiful. The silver-white foliage stretches and spreads towards the sky, held aloft by a trunk so thick it would be a challenge to walk around it. The leaves rustle and whisper peacefully in the wind. The tree, it seems to speak to you. You walk away from the odd-looking preacher and the young acolyte, ignoring them as they call out to you. You walk around the temple and the crowd of people getting closer to the tree with every step. Then, you extend a shaking hand and touch the bark. It is unusually warm. You could feel a pulse beneath the roots. The tree is alive. Well, I mean, that's kind of... But, I mean, all plants are kind of alive, so you know, but I do see your point. The roots are so gigantic. They form large grottos, spaces of air embraced by the roots and the ground. You squeeze into one of these grottos. It is unusually bright and quiet, shielded from the noise of Anizote. Right now, there is only you and the tree. You sit down. There are leaves rustling all around you. The only noise you hear is the beating pulse of life that flows through the tree, and this pulse beats in time with your own heart. You feel clarity and calmness, free of doubt and frustration. The tree speaks to you. Or are they your own thoughts? So strange, unfamiliar, and eye-opening. These thoughts speak of soothing love and the crystal-clear law, and of love and law intertwining to bring the miracle of life to you. You stop slouching, and your frown becomes a light smile. Hours pass like fleeting seconds. You lose track of time until you hear someone shouting your name. Alas, it is time to leave this grotto. The sun is setting over Anizote now. The day was quick to pass. Your teacher frowns, ready to scold you. You mumble an explanation and say you are ready to be punished for disobedience. Yet instead, the teacher nods in understanding. Ooh, 10 willpower. You keep looking back at the tree all the way home. Whatever happened to you today, you find it difficult to put into words. The shadow of the past. Another school day has ended. You are making your way home, still mulling over the things you learned from your teachers. The founding of the Empire. The eternal and unshakable rule of a single dynasty. The 3 estates, each with its own rights. What an odd sort of order the world has. And soon to crumble into chaos to make a new order. And yet, so mysterious. At least it sounds that way when your teachers talk about it. Mother is waiting for you on the porch. She smiles gently when she sees you, and yet her expression still shows great concern. Father left on a trip to several distant Magron towns a few days ago. Since then, Mother has been trying to tell you something, but she seems uncertain. Son, could you put your things away and come pray with me? You join Mother in a prayer to the twins. She prays with fervent sincerity, her head bowed low, reciting the words of obedience to them and their greater design in a barely audible whisper. You repeat after her, just as she has taught you ever since you were a little boy. When the prayer ends, Mother sighs and turns to you. Volker, my son, you are 13 now. You'll be grown soon. It's time you learned about certain things that are important to our family. Difficult things. It's about your father and me. About our marriage. You gaze curiously into Mother's eyes. I am sure you have wondered about this before. Your father is a nobleman of the mantle, so how could he marry a commoner with another man's child? But you see, Volker, your father, when his first wife, Amelia Elborn, died, it was a painful blow to him. He felt he lost the will to live, lost all purpose. He felt like his own destiny was cut short that day as well. And then he met me. You know the troubles I had in the past. I went to the prefecture as a petitioner to ask them for help, protection, justice. When I was a young girl, I worked at a small shop that sold crockery and dishes. A nobleman took a liking to me. May his name be forever forgotten. The twins know I was humbled and honored his lot to rule, but he took me by force. Mother falls silent, summoning the courage to continue. Gloria is that nobleman's daughter, but he was outraged. How could I have the gall to burden him with low-born progeny? He turned me out on the street with that little baby girl in my arms. Mother's voice is shaking now. You take her hand tenderly. I had no hope, no honor, nowhere to go, no one to help me. When I went to the prefecture, I didn't really think the judges there would help me find justice against my former master. But when Sir Robert heard my plea, his eyes met mine, and I believe that, at that very moment, the twins themselves granted him the gift of their love. Your father told me that there was nothing he could do to make that detestable nobleman marry me, but he would never abandon me and baby Gloria. And if I agreed, he would take me into his own home. Tears are running down Mother's cheeks. And I knew it. My son. I knew how much his honor and reputation would suffer. But caring for me brought him back to life. It's like he experienced another sacrament. He rediscovered his noble purpose, his lot to rule and protect and care for others. But his decision to marry me, he is still paying for it today. Your father had the courage to defy your grandfather, the founder of his bloodline. If only you knew how much he had to endure, my son. If only you knew the despicable rumors we heard about the Brantes all over Anisote. It was only thanks to the efforts of Sir Gregor that the Brante bloodline managed to hang on to what little remained of its reputation. And now, the noble families have all but forgotten about that scandal. Thank the twins. Mother falls silent. She looks at you intently. You understand what she is telling you. My son, hold scandal in the minds of high society, and if that were to happen, Volker, they would see even your birth as illegitimate. Mother sighs heavily. What I told you just now is something you have to know, son. You are about to enter adult life. By my lot, I must be humble. I cannot tell you how to treat your family. But may I ask you a question? Now that you know all of this, do you still see Gloria as your sister? You do not want to disappoint Mother or Gloria, but you are not ready to promise anything just yet. What is good for the family is good for you. You will be more wary when dealing with Gloria from now on. Regardless of her origins, Gloria will always be family. Always. Filled with determination, you assure Mother that Gloria is, and always will be, your sister. You want Gloria to be a Brante too. You want her to be a part of your family. Who cares what the nobles of Anizote say? Mother beams with quiet joy when she hears this. Oh, Volker. If only you knew how happy that would make me. To have our family united at last. However, the joy on her face quickly gives way to concern. But I already owe good Sir Robert a debt I can never repay. He's given my daughter so much help. A home, an education, his care, and advice. The Brante bloodline could suffer so much from Gloria's existence. We should all just learn to accept her status as it is. Just then you hear Gloria carefully knock at the door of Mother's chambers. Mother, Volker, I couldn't find you. Happily greet your sister. Yes, she is your sister. No old secrets can ever change that. Mother gives you and Gloria a kiss on the forehead and returns to her prayers. You and your sister walk downstairs together. Mother is alone by her bedside now, thanking the twins with a quiet prayer for the Brante family they have given her. You hope they can hear her. Fall, year 1131, the flash and the flame. You are 13 now. Another theology lesson. Today's sermon is about the priests and why the clergy is only one of the 3 estates with the right to interpret the laws and guide the other 2 estates accordingly. Thomas sits next to you, huffing and puffing as he fervently writes down the teacher's every word. But you've heard all this from Mother many times before, so you take this moment to daydream about. Father promised to take you to the capital once your studies are complete. But the teacher suddenly casts a stern look around the lecture hall and raises his voice at one of your classmates. A boy by the name of Brian jumps out of his seat. The teacher asks him to repeat what he had just said. Brian freezes and seems to shrink. Tries to muster a reply, but nothing comes out. The class becomes agitated. Someone is about to get punished. The teacher now looms over Brian. The boy's cheeks are flushed and his eyes are covered in tears. You all watch the teacher's iron-bound book as he raises it sharply, about to strike. Brian shrieks and raises a hand in front of him. Sorry. A sudden flash. The teacher screams and buries his face in his arms. His hair is ablaze and his skin is covered in horrible burns. It's magic. Real magic. Just like in the books about the Magra Rebellion. The class freezes in shock. There's a dull thud as the iron-bound book falls to the floor. The witch's return. Brian's hysterical laughter rends the silence. He stands up from his bench, fire in his eyes and sparks on his fingertips. There are screams now. Students run for the door. The teacher tries to extinguish his burning hair. Brian snaps his fingers and the books of Isatius on the desk turn into pillars of flame. He laughs and raises his arms, and the curtains catch fire. The screams grow louder as the fire howls. Brian's face is tense and violent. His mouth is spewing flames, and his whole body is shaking with laughter. He steps toward the door. You and Thomas glance at each other. As amused as I am to see that the witches are indeed here. He's going to burn the whole school down. Your friend's determination makes you brave. You run behind Brian and knock him off his feet. You both tumble to the floor, even though his clothes, his body, sears your flesh. Brian screams, convulses, and grabs Thomas by the shoulders with his burning hands. Thomas howls but stays put, then knocks Brian senseless with several fierce blows to the head. There are servants fussing around the room now. They put out the fires and take away the teacher, his body covered in horrible burns. You and Thomas remain next to Brian, who is lying on the floor silent. Soon 3 men in black cloaks enter the doors of the school, each bearing an edict sealed with silver. The Inquisition. You and Thomas are told to step away from the witch. They lock Brian's neck in a silver collar and take him away. One of the Inquisitors remains behind to tell the students what happened. That was magic, he explains. The ungodly power that twists the minds of men into savage instruments of murder. Only the sacred shackles of silver can hold it at bay. Only the power of the twins can save us all from its evil grasp. The next day you are forbidden from ever mentioning Brian's name again. He is no more. This magic, though. How intriguing. If only I had the time to be able to ask him a few questions of how to acquire such power or how it comes. But sadly, I was not given enough time. A great day looms ahead. 100 years ago, Uther Tempest was anointed to rule over the Empire. Blessed by the twins themselves, the Emperor's reign continues into its 2nd century. Celebrations in honor of the Tempest dynasty are held throughout the city, and the school is closed for 2 weeks because of that. On one of these evenings, Father tells everyone that Grandfather is going to bring Stefan back home for the holiday. They say families should celebrate the Day of Anointment together. You could benefit from your elder brother's company with his noble education. Stefan might be able to teach you how noblemen are supposed to act. Sure he would. He would still see me as a commoner. Soon, Stefan arrives. He now handles himself differently when it comes to ordering servants around and ignoring Gloria. He is still Grandfather's double, but he is more grown up now and far less haughty to you. It is a dark winter evening. A damp cold wind sweeps through the city from the barren lands of Magra. You and Stefan are sitting in the library. He is telling you all about Eterna, the capital of the Empire. It is full of so many wonders. The Imperial Palace, the enormous Temple of the Twins, the Military Academy, the Imperial College. You have read so much about these places, yet he has seen them firsthand. Nathan enters the library. He looks concerned. I can't find Gloria. I looked everywhere. She's not in the attic, not in the sitting room, not in the kitchen. I heard she wanted to sneak off to the ruins of Shar Melanidis' palace. She could be lost in there. You and Stefan exchange looks. Shar Melanidis, the rebellious duke. The ruins of his palace are a dangerous place. Some children claim his tainted magic still lingers there, which means you absolutely have to make your way there and back again to prove you are not afraid of the long-dead witch. Your brother tells you to wait. He leaves and soon returns with his sword in its sheath. Get ready, Volka. We're going to rescue Gloria. She must have gone to the ruins in search of inspiration for another one of her little rhymes. That's probably the best I'm gonna get out of you, so I'll take it. The two of you instruct Nathan to tell your parents you've gone for a walk in the square. You and your elder brother head outside. You are confused by Stefan's actions. He refuses to treat Gloria like a human being, so why is he still so determined to rescue her? Stefan notices your expression. Are you wondering why I care about Gloria all of a sudden? I can't act in any other way, can I? The law of honor compels me to protect my family. Gloria will never be a Brante, but Father still took her into our house. I must respect his seniority and defend Gloria like she is one of our own. You are a Brante too, noble or not, which means it is your duty to aid me. Again, best I can get, so I'll accept it. The ruins of Shar Melanides' palace span an entire district. The palace was abandoned centuries ago and its remnants are overgrown with thick underbrush. The ruined palace is empty, nothing but cold wind blowing over crumbling brickwork. Even the worst scum of the land steer clear of this place. You make your way through the ruins until you spot scattered sheets of paper covered in writing. Your sister's writing. You hear loud laughter coming from behind a dilapidated stone wall nearby. You pull yourself up to peer over it. Gloria is lying on the ground face down, twitching and sobbing. A gaggle of drunk young thugs surround her, cackling and swinging their arms about. You hear their shouts. Look at the lass sitting here rhyming words together. She thinks she's all noble. But don't you worry, noble chart. I'm gonna teach you your place. One of the louts spits at Gloria as she lies there. Get away from her this instant, you bastards, or I'll spill your guts. They respond with mocking laughter. Stefan draws his sword. The street thugs recoil in fear, but they soon notice that he is only one armed man against many. They start reaching out for sticks and stones. Stay by my side. Don't let them flank me. Stefan's hand shakes, but he looks ready for battle. He is outnumbered. For a moment you hesitate. Perhaps it might be better to run for the nearby district and call for guards. The young thugs are already armed with makeshift weapons. They start approaching you and Stefan cautiously. I am no coward, but I am no fool either. You got busy defending Stefan while his sword does the attacking. Stefan, Brante, and I do not have bad blood. And I have willpower greater than 0, so... I suppose I'll have to be the tank in this situation. But soon enough I'll be the damage dealer. Nonetheless, you are the one that has a better ability to do more damage, so I shall simply play my supportive role. Stefan's firm voice fills you with confidence. You follow your noble brother's orders. It takes a moment to grab a stick and then you are at Stefan's back, angrily swinging at the louts as they try to bring him down. One of the louts lunges at your brother with a stone, but you hit him with a stick and he falls down right at Stefan's feet. His sword flashes. The blade sinks deep into the young man's stomach. He wheezes. Blood starts pouring out onto the ground. The thugs freeze. Stefan pulls the sword out, his face an inscrutable mask, and returns to his fighting stance. You are stunned to see Stefan take another man's life so easily and effortlessly, like picking his own teeth. To be fair, in this situation, I would have done the same. The thugs look like they are about to flee. There is rage and confusion on their faces. They never expected the young nobleman to use that sword. Stefan just scoffs at them. Low-born scum. That's all you are. This is the only language you understand. Good job, brother. Gloria, get up. We're going home. He turns to glance at your sister, giving the enraged thugs just enough time to rush you. You get separated from Stefan. Your back is against the wall now. They hit you hard. In the stomach, then the face, then the side of the head. Then your mind slips away. When the darkness disperses, you find yourself lying in your bed. Stefan is in the armchair next to you reading a book. He's alive, with his left arm in a sling and a black eye, but still alive. Your head is spinning and you feel nauseous. You try your best to sit up. Stefan looks up from the book. Don't try to get up. Lost a lot of blood. I suppose there was a few thugs too many for a single warrior, even with good backup. Did he just call me good backup? I will accept that. I'm impressed. We fought like an army. The noble orders, the commoner obeys. And now there it goes, okay. All according to our lots. We defended the family's honor together. You know, brother, the nobleman's law is also a great burden that few are able to bear. It takes courage. Not to fight everything you see, but to do your duty. Each and every decision a nobleman makes becomes a part of his family's legacy, flowing in the blood tide forever. I think about it often. A noble mustn't act weak. A noble mustn't suffer like people of the lowborn would. A noble must rule over them wisely. A noble must ensure that they have work to do. It's not merely your own law you have to look after. You have to ensure that 1,000 others can live by their law as well. And there are so many more matters to take care of. Honor, dignity, tradition. It's tough, but it's what it takes to be a nobleman. Do you understand what I'm talking about? There is approval in your brother's eyes. For the first time in a long while. It was a pleasure to fight side by side, brother. +2? I'll be fucking damned. Stefan treats you as usual. Okay, well. Oh well, I gained more relations, so that's something. And I gained more nobility, but I lost 5 willpower. Okay, you know what? That's okay. I did gain more. I did become honorable. I am an honorable noble now. But we'll have to make sure we stay that way. Trial of the Assailants. Before long, the entire city hears how a gang of lowborn thugs assaulted Stephen Brante. Grandfather ensures that the brash young men are found. Some of them are taken into custody as soon as a lesser death releases them. Grandfather seeks vengeance on those who hurt his favorite grandson. Oh well, I don't care. Prefect Elborn, a friend of your family, promises to personally oversee the trial and ensure that justice is served. Are we not going to mention what happened to Gloria, though? I suppose not. Stephen and Grandfather decide to stay in Anizote until the trial ends. Grandfather demands true death for every single assailant. You ask your father to explain something. How can a legal court sentence criminals to true death? How can worldly judgment overrule the twins' law? Your words are true, my son. The law is second to none, yet the twin gods also made the empire in all its ways. The court of law exists to execute the laws of heaven here in the world. Should the court of law sentence a person to death, the law high above will always enforce it. And so, every execution brings true death. The commoners who assaulted Stefan, a born nobleman, have committed a grave offense. There is no doubt about that. And yet, according to the Emperor's decree, even commoners have the right to defend themselves when they are about to face true death. This means that all of us will have to appear at the trial and testify before the court. Evening comes. Gloria visits your room. She looks crestfallen and her fingers keep reaching for her long hair. You put away your schoolbooks and ask what is bothering her. The trial is tomorrow. I thought I was going to appear there too as an eyewitness. After all, this whole mess started because of me. But Sir Robert isn't even going to mention that I was there. Can you imagine? He says it would ruin the case. Why am I always in the way? Nobody ever mentions me. Nobody has to listen to me. It's like I don't even exist. And I thought Stefan standing up for me finally meant something. Maybe I'll become part of the family. But no. Everything is back to usual now. Gloria tries her best to hold back the tears. You do her best to comfort her. Mother just needs to keep the family out of trouble. If Sir Robert believes that I only bring trouble, why did he take me into their house at all? Gloria runs away. You return to your books, but you can't help but get lost in thought. What if they told the court you weren't there either? How would you feel then? There is a knock at the door, and his father. He closes the door behind him and sits next to you. There is an exhausted look about him. Son, you will be testifying before the court tomorrow. Please remember what I'm about to tell you. Gloria wasn't at the ruins at all. You went there with your brother to inspect this historic site. The lowborn men insulted Stefan first and then attacked him. Stefan had managed to deal with the assailants on his own by the time the guards intervened. Gloria will cast suspicion on the case. If we mention her very existence to the court, the reputation of the family will suffer. Your grandfather will never forgive me if that happens. Do not let me down. We're all counting on you. Right, because... You recall the night of the fight like it was a moment ago. Gloria sprawled under the feet of those cackling thugs. Her poetry, her greatest treasure. scattered on the ground. She thinks she's all noble. Those were the words they spat down at her, but doesn't grandfather mean the same thing when he denies that she is part of the family? But if you do what father tells you, the trial will end quickly. Those commoners will face true death for assaulting a noble. If you mention Gloria, things will get complicated and you cannot predict how the trial will end. Which is more important to you? What is right, or what is just? We're determined to change father's opinion and make sure Gloria gets the fair treatment she deserves. I will do as he tells me. She will get justice. That's what's important. You're not in agreement. You'll follow the family's plan for the trial to the letter. A faint smile appears on father's fatigued face. Thank you, son. This is an important case for our family and for me as well. I appreciate your support. The day comes. The trial takes place in the lesser hall of the city prefecture. Sir Alborn himself presides as the judge. You are seated next to Father and Stefan. You testify to the court one after another. You echo your brother's testimony to the letter. The young commoners insulted you as you were both walking by the ruins. Then they assaulted you. Stefan defended you. The lives of the 4 thugs are forfeit. Sir Alborn rises to deliver the sentence. The court of Anazote judges you guilty of assaulting Stefan Brante, a nobleman. All 4 defendants are sentenced to true death by hanging. There is no wind. You feel a gust sweep through the hall. The defendants turn pale. Their mothers are bawling and crying. You have no need to cry or weep over those who would assault an innocent woman. They deserve this death. Everybody in the court feels the dreadful power of the law, and it is stern and just. That very power has been invoked by this sentence, and by that very sentence, the lives of the 4 young men are literally forfeit for all eternity. The gallows opened. Stefan and grandfather stand in the front row. Wood creaks. The trapdoors open under the young men's feet. They dangle in the air, wheezing and reaching out for support with their feet in their final moments. Father lets out an inaudible sigh of relief. This will teach you the next time you wish to try and sully the honor and the innocence of my sister. It is all over now. When Gloria comes back home the day after, she refuses to eat dinner and locks herself in a room. Before she leaves, however, you notice a scratch on her face and her hair is disheveled. You go to her room and knock at the door, but she will not open. Then she finally replies she has already gone to bed and you should leave. Did you do the right thing during the trial? Your sister is still being bullied. No one knows she has a family to defend her, and Gloria does not want to be defended now. Those 4 commoners saw no mercy. Their lives ended for assaulting a nobleman. What did you seek to prove with this, and to whom? Was it worth it in the end? I get affection from my father, but... We do have tarnished honor now, but unity has just gone down. Or well, our honor went up. Stefan leaves soon after the trial, alone. Grandfather does not go with him. For the first time in a long while, he lingers in the house for more than a fortnight. Father says Sir Gregor is ill and needs rest. Several months go by and it becomes clear that grandfather will not recover. The eldest, Brante, is mostly bedridden now. On some days he has trouble recognizing people. When he means to address you or Nathan, he calls you Robert, your father's name. But when he does get out of bed, the house grows empty. The servants hide. Mother locks herself in her chambers. You and Nathan run outside or hide quietly in your rooms. If grandfather sees anyone in the hallways, he begins lamenting. Oh, nobody heeds the lots any longer. Any harlot with a child can marry a nobleman these days. Children have no respect. His son betrayed him and let him down, and oh, how the Brante family has lost its honor. Again and again, you hear grandfather knocking at mother's door, screaming that it is all her fault. He blames her for ruining his chances to find bliss in the hereafter. He blames her for dooming him to suffer at the foot of the pillar. You overhear your parents talking one night. Mother begs father to move Sir Gregor to his old home and spare the children his decline. Father refuses her outright. It is late at night. The hot, dry winds are coming. The house is empty, save for you, Nathan, Gloria, Mother, and Grandfather in his bed. Father has left for the capital on business. You are engrossed in the history of the Empire, snapping out of your reverie only when the clock strikes midnight. You blow out the candle and get ready for bed. You hear the shuffling of heavy feet outside your door. You see light in the hallway. Grandfather. What could he want in the middle of the night? You peek into the hallway once he is past. Grandfather's figure sways as he heads for the door to Mother's chamber. He opens the door and walks in. You hear him saying something quietly. Your unease is stronger than your fear now. You sneak close to hear his words. You foul commoner! I have to cleanse my sins. I have to save my soul. You are my greatest sin. You and what you have done to Robert and this family. I should have put a stop to this marriage. I should have stopped Robert from tainting this house by your presence. Why didn't I do it? Please, Sir Brante, I beg of you. Silence! You'll do my bidding. Fire will cleanse all low-born filth from this place. Fire and flame will free Robert from his disgrace. This is for my son's sake. For my son's sake. For my sake. I need to eradicate this low-born filth. The twins. They are calling for me now. I can feel it. I can feel it. I beg of you, please, have mercy. Mother begins to cry. You run into the room, unable to stay out of this any longer. Grandfather's gaunt figure looms over Mother's bed, a lit oil lamp in his hand. Mother is sprawled out on the bed, crying. Please, just let me warn the children. I beg of you, Sir Brante. Your steps are loud enough to be heard. Grandfather turns to look at you. Stay out of this, Volca. Be useful for once. Worldly matters concern me no longer. I see my sins now, and a sinner I am. A sinner. The twins, they forgive no one. They will judge me by the pillar. I must do something. I don't want to suffer for all eternity. Go away. Mother is crying. Grandfather is still looming over the bed, driven to madness. His hand shakes as it clutches the oil lamp. His eyes shine in the dark. He truly believes this has to be done. You are suddenly torn. What if he is right? What if that is the only way for his soul to find salvation? There's no going back. You have but a moment to act. If that is the case, then I will happily condemn your soul to eternal torment. You run to Mother's side and snatch the lamp out of Grandfather's hand before he can start a fire. You look at Grandfather defiantly and step towards him. He stares you down with rage and throws the oil lamp at the floor. You manage to catch it, but just barely. Several drops of hot oil hit the rug, not nearly enough to start a fire. The lamp's glass is glistening hot. It burns your hands, but you still hold on to it safely. Low-born scum! You ruined everything! You're every bit like your mother! You! Enraged, he takes a swing and you squeeze your eyes shut. But he does not hit you. Instead, there is a deep exhalation. You peek at him with one eye, just in time to see him collapse, all his strength fading away. His chest is heaving, his face a grimace of contempt. Another heavy exhaltation. The contempt is gone. There's only fear. Grandfather's eyes open wide, almost in surprise. He exhales. His eyes grow dim. Mother is there whispering a prayer. She is shaking violently. You put the oil lamp gently on the bedside table and call for the servants. They carry the body away. It does not disappear. True death has found him. He will never return. You spend the rest of the night with Mother in the sitting room. She will not let go of your hand. For many, many nights afterwards, she keeps seeing Grandfather's shadow out of the corner of her eye. I'm sorry. Did I ruin your little plan, Gregor? What a shame. If what you say is true, I truly do hope you suffer at the foot of the pillar, and that you be given every single lash that means every single bit of torment I would inflict. Father returns from Eterna the morning after. He is unusually composed as he arranges for the funeral. The house becomes quiet. Not the looming, heavy sort of quiet of the past few months, but the calm relief you all feel now that the crazed old man is no more. Alas, Gregor Brante, the family's patriarch, has departed for the hereafter. Good. I'm glad that old croak finally decided to go. I did lose all of my willpower, but I did gain more nobility and more ingenuity. I'm bright. Excellent. Grandfather's demise. Your grandfather, Sir Gregor Brante, left this world forever to meet the twin gods. Last respects. The night of grandfather's death shook your family to the core. Yet no matter how it happened, your grandfather Gregor Brante is dead and will never return. He was a fearful shadow looming over the rest of the family. The Brante patriarch exerting his influence on all the lives below him, and all of you will remember him forever. Father is the new patriarch of the family now. Yet he still cannot bring himself to sit at the head of the table where Sir Gregor used to preside. Stefan locks himself away in grandfather's bedroom every day. He will not talk to anyone. Gloria and Nathan still jump at every sound that so much as resembles the knocking of his walking stick. Mother spends all day in prayer at the temple. And yet the house has become calm and quiet with his passing. But there is one more thing that must be done. The final farewell. Weighs heavily upon your soul. The day comes to pay your final respects. Father goes to the tomb alone, save for Stefan, Nathan, and you. Mother and Gloria stay at home. Only nobles, or those who may become nobles, may join this ritual. There is a solemn silence as you walk to the crypt. Father is the one who breaks this silence when you finally reach the door of the family crypt. Your grandfather built this crypt, and now he will be the first Brante to remain here in body forever. The first ever noble in our family. It is our duty now to hold sacrament. It is our duty now hold to the sacrament of flowing blood for Sir Gregor. We will honor his legacy and join him as the founder of the noble Brante dynasty. Stefan perks up at Father's words. His hands still clutch grandfather's sword. Tradition decrees that it must remain in the niche above the owner's sarcophagus. Nathan, on the other hand, looks even more frightened now. Stairs carved of white stone lead you downward. Deep in the gloom of the crypt, atop a pedestal, you see the sarcophagus that holds grandfather's body. Father takes a moment to compose himself before paying his final respects. Gregor Brante, my father, brought our family into nobility through his unshakable will. He was a judge and a loyal servant to the Empire. He lived his life as if he had been born a noble. Sure has. And he never strayed from a path he had chosen. He sought to make the Brante family a noble by the sword so that our children's children might be of noble birth. The twins know I abided by my father's word all my life. even if I could not obey him every time. Father lets out a bitter chuckle as he says this. Stefan glares at Father, then turns to glare at Nathan and you. After all, the two of you were born of Father's shameful decision to marry a commoner. All of you remember his disastrous passing. He did not die the true death he deserved. Speak for yourself. Yet we all must know that he fought for the future he believed in to the very end, and he would be proud to see his family bid him farewell with this sacrament of nobility. Stefan still glares at Father sullenly. His fingers remain clutched around Grandfather's sword. Nathan barely pays attention to the words. He looks around with unease, his arms folded across his chest. Father reaches into his jacket and pulls out a slender dagger, thin and sharp. He takes off his gloves. Watch me carefully, my sons. Make a small cut on the palm of your hand, and let your blood flow into this duct on the wall of the crypt. It will join your grandfather's blood here and flow forever. Then ancestor and progeny will become as one. We shall enter our family's blood tide and receive grandfather's final blessing, for his blood flows first in our blood tide. He will respond to you. You are part of him, and he is part of you. With a quick motion, Father slices his hand and holds the bleeding cut above a small opening in the wall. Then he hands the dagger to Stefan. Stefan cuts his hand without hesitation and does as his father did. You receive the dagger next. The dagger's handle feels warm. You hesitate for a moment as you look at the palm of your hand. If you participate in this ritual, you will enter the Brante blood tide. You, a lowborn child, a child who is still a commoner. Are you ready to claim your legacy as a descendant of the nobleman Gregor Brante? The eyes of your father and brothers are upon you. Nathan, the youngest brother, will follow your example. You can be certain of this. So I can't select bleed, because I didn't have the Destiny Nobleman's Sacrament. I still recall your first sacrament, how you defied the lash. You were Gregor Brante's grandson, and so you deserve to enter his blood tide. And I do not have enough nobility, nor relation with Gregor Brante. Before you dare enter his blood tide, you ask Grandfather's spirit for his blessing. You refuse to participate in the ritual. After all, you do not bear the nobleman's lot. You return the dagger to your father and say you cannot participate in the ritual. You are a commoner and your back bears the mark of the lash. Grandfather would never have let you honor his name as a nobleman. Nathan nods in agreement. You do not deserve this honor. Father furrows his brow and shakes his head. Stefan, help me close the lid of the sarcophagus and remember to ask for Grandfather for his blessing. And as for you two, it seems you weren't ready to walk the nobleman's path after all. You're right, son. Your grandfather would never have allowed it. The lid of the sarcophagus falls into place with a heavy resonant thud. Then suddenly, you all freeze as each of you hears your late grandfather speak to you. His voice is loud as it rings in the depths of the crypt, and yet he speaks to each of you separately. Foul-blood weakling! I knew you never had it in you to rise above your meager birth, Volker. You have not a drop of nobility in you, and your pathetic little brother is the same. You are a taint upon my flesh and blood. Begone from my crypt. Your legs carry out of the crypt of their own accord. Out, out, out of that stuffy crypt. You can finally breathe again. You hear slow footsteps behind you. You turn around to meet Nathan's gaze. You did the right thing. If it weren't for you, I'd have done what Father told us. Grandfather said I should stay away from his legacy. He said it'll do me good if I try to follow in his footsteps. How's that for words of guidance, Sam? Probably the best thing he said in a long while. Nathan sighs as he embraces you. Father and Stefan leave the crypt much later and walk to the carriage without a word. You and Nathan humbly follow behind them. I do gain some willpower from it, so that works. And with that, I will have to go ahead and end the video here, so I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Give that like button a stab if you did. Subscribe if you want more death in your life. Be sure the bell is tolling for thee, and until next time, rest in peace. Bye! Enjoyed today's video? Well, there's plenty more for you to enjoy here, and if you also want to support this small channel, then there is also my Ko-fi, which is available, as well as a Twitter thread that gives you my commissioning info. And if you'd like some traditional art or literature, feel free to DM me on Twitter. Thank you for enjoying the video and for your viewership.